When people talk about the weapons of the Vietnam War, they usually mention helicopters, napalm, and the M16 rifle. And those were indeed defining features of the conflict. But there was another kind of weapon in that war that doesn't get talked about nearly as much, and it came from the most unlikely place. It was a weapon so terrifying that enemy commanders gave a standing order to their men. Do not fight it. Run. We're going to tell you everything about this weapon, but I have to warn you that some of the descriptions of its effects are hard to stomach. Now, if you're still here, let's start by understanding the problem on the ground in Vietnam that led to its creation, and then we'll move from there. To understand the birth of the dragon, you first have to understand the darkness it was born to fight. By the mid-1960s, the war in South Vietnam was defined by a brutal style of guerrilla warfare. The Viet Cong were masters of the night. They used the cover of darkness to launch surprise attacks on isolated American and South Vietnamese outposts. For the soldiers in those remote firebases, nightfall was a time of absolute dread. The jungle perimeter that felt secure in the daytime became terrifyingly fragile in the dark. You see, the Viet Cong's strategy was simple and brutally effective. Massed infantry assaults at night. They'd find a weak point and just swarm it with overwhelming numbers. The defenders, often outnumbered, had limited options. Artillery could be inaccurate against moving targets so close to their own lines, and calling for air support had its own problems. The fast-moving jets of the era, like the F-4 Phantom, were designed for a different kind of war. They could make one devastating pass at 500 miles per hour, drop their bombs, and be gone in seconds. Once the jet screamed past, the Viet Cong knew they could just wait it out and resume the attack. These jets were also a huge friendly fire risk. The Air Force also used old C-47 transport planes to drop flares and light up the battlefield, but the Viet Cong just adapted. They learned to pause the attack, lie flat, and wait for the flares to burn out. The problem was clear. They needed a new kind of weapon, not something that offered a few seconds of violent support, but something that could stay overhead for hours, delivering a persistent, inescapable stream of fire. The stage was set for a truly revolutionary and, frankly, bizarre innovation. The solution didn't come from a high-tech lab. It came from a series of observations centered on one of the most unlikely aircraft you can imagine, the Douglas C-47 Skytrain. This was the workhorse of World War II, famous for dropping paratroopers over Normandy. By the 1960s, it was considered a relic, an obsolete cargo hauler. The idea of a side-firing gunship had been experimented with for years, but never really worked. You see, most planes have forward-firing guns, meaning the pilot has to point the nose at the target. This makes it impossible to keep firing on one spot on the ground. The side-firing concept flipped this on its head. What if you mounted the guns to fire out the side? Theoretically, a pilot could then perform a maneuver called a pylon turn. Imagine a single point on the ground. The pilot could bank the plane and fly a perfect circle around that point, keeping the wingtip aimed at the center the whole time. If your guns are pointing out the side, you can pour a continuous, unbroken stream of fire onto that one spot for as long as you have fuel and ammunition. In the early 1960s, this old idea was revived under Project Gunship 1. Air Force Captain Ron Terry was a key figure who pushed the project forward. They took a C-131 transport plane, stuck a high-speed Gatling-style minigun in it, and the tests were a stunning success. The concept was proven. Now, they needed the right airframe. The old C-47 Goonie Bird was perfect. It was slow, which was actually an advantage because it could loiter for hours. Its big cargo bay could hold tons of ammo, and it was tough. Most importantly, there were plenty of them available. The idea was to take this gentle, aging transport plane and fill it with the most ferocious firepower they could fit inside. With the concept proven, things moved incredibly fast. In late 1964, Captain Terry's team arrived at Bien Hoa Air Base in South Vietnam to convert two C-47s into the world's first operational gunships. This was a masterpiece of wartime improvisation on the front lines. The heart of the conversion was the armament, three 7.62mm General Electric M134 miniguns. These weren't normal machine guns. Each one was a six-barreled weapon that could fire up to 6,000 rounds per minute, though it was usually set to a more manageable 3,000. With all three firing, the plane could unleash 150 rounds every single second. The guns were mounted to fire out the left side windows and cargo door. The pilot aimed the entire plane using a simple gun sight on his window while flying that pylon turn. The cargo bay, once used for mail, was now filled with over 21,000 rounds of ammunition. The loadmaster's job included manually dropping powerful Mark 24 magnesium flares out of the open door to light up the night. Initially, the plane was designated FC-47 for fighter cargo. Well, the fighter pilot community complained that calling this slow propeller plane a fighter was an insult. So, to keep them happy, it was changed to AC-47 for attack cargo. The crews gave their new weapon its first call sign, Spooky, and it was on the night of December 23, 1964, that the legend was truly born. Viet Cong forces attacked an outpost in the Mekong Delta. An AC-47 arrived, circled overhead, and broke the attack in minutes. In its first couple of weeks, the AC-47 flew 16 combat missions with a 100% success rate. The Dragon had been born. The immediate impact of the AC-47 was revolutionary. For Viet Cong commanders, darkness had been their greatest ally. Suddenly, that ally was gone. The experience of being on the receiving end of a spooky attack was a multi-sensory assault designed for pure terror. It started with the sound, the low drone of the C-47's engines, a distinctive thrum that signaled impending doom. Then, the night would be shattered. The loadmaster would drop Mark 24 flares, each one igniting with the intensity of 2 million candles, turning midnight into a harsh, artificial noon and exposing every soldier below. Then came the fire. For the attacking soldiers, it looked like a solid river of red light pouring from the sky. You see, because every fifth round was a tracer, the effect wasn't of individual bullets, but a continuous stream of fire that seemed to bend as the aircraft orbited. This visual is what earned the aircraft its most famous nickname from American troops, Puff the Magic Dragon. To the Viet Cong on the ground, it was simply dragon fire. The sheer volume of fire was something they had never faced. The AC-47 could put a round into every square yard of a football field in just a few seconds. There was no cover. The sound wasn't the pop, pop, pop of a machine gun. It was a continuous, deafening roar, like a giant piece of cloth being ripped in half. The psychological impact was immediate. The combination of blinding light, the terrifying roar, and that inescapable stream of tracers just shattered morale. The psychological terror quickly spread through the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese ranks. This wasn't just another weapon. It was something that defied their understanding of warfare. The name they gave it, the Dragon, was one of genuine, primal fear. The results were so devastating that Viet Cong Command had to issue a new directive that addressed the gunship directly. Captured enemy documents and prisoner interrogations began to reveal a consistent piece of intelligence. Viet Cong soldiers were being explicitly ordered not to engage the AC-47. The logic behind the order was sound. From the perspective of a soldier on the ground with an AK-47, the AC-47 was an impossible target. It orbited at around 3,000 feet, well out of the effective range of small arms. Firing at the Dragon was a futile gesture that only created a muzzle flash, a perfect shoot here sign for the gunners circling above. The moment a position opened fire, it became the singular focus of that relentless river of fire. So, the order was not to fight, not to hide, but to run for your lives. This was a stunning admission of defeat. Guerrilla warfare is built on morale, but the AC-47 attacked that belief directly. The mere sound of its engines was often enough to cause attackers to abandon their positions and melt back into the jungle. Over its service, the AC-47 defended thousands of outposts. And famously, In over 6,000 documented defense missions, not a single outpost protected by an AC-47 was ever overrun by the enemy. It was an astonishingly successful record, a testament to the absolute battlefield dominance of this strange aircraft. While the AC-47 was a terrifying machine, its legend was ultimately written by the men who flew it. These were not easy assignments. The inside of a Spooky during a firefight was a chaotic, violent, and dangerous place. The entire airframe would shudder from the recoil of the guns. And despite its effectiveness, the AC-47 was a slow, unarmored cargo plane flying in predictable circles. Over its career, 19 AC-47s were lost, with 12 of those in combat. What happened aboard Spooky 71 on the night of February 24, 1969, perfectly shows the heroism at the heart of the machine. That night, Spooky 71 was diverted to support a base under a heavy mortar attack. The loadmaster was a 23-year-old airman first class named John Levitow. As the gunship entered its pylon turn, the aircraft was rocked by a tremendous explosion. An 82mm mortar round had slammed into the right wing, sending over 3,500 pieces of shrapnel tearing through the fuselage. John Levitow was hit by 40 pieces of shrapnel that ripped into his back, side, and legs. Through a haze of pain, Levitow saw a crewmate thrown perilously close to the open cargo door. Despite his wounds, Levitow began to drag the unconscious airman away from the door. It was then that he saw the real nightmare, an armed Mark 24 flare. Its safety pin, pulled by the explosion, was rolling freely around the cabin, spewing smoke. The cabin was filled with thousands of rounds of live ammunition. If that flare ignited, its 4,000-degree burn would detonate everything, destroying the plane and everyone in it. Weakened by blood loss, Levitow knew he was the only one who could act. He threw his own wounded body onto the 27-pound canister to stop it, hugged it to himself, and began to crawl toward the open cargo door, leaving a trail of blood behind him. He reached the door and hurled the flare out into the night. Just as it cleared the plane, it ignited in a blinding white flash. Levitow then collapsed. For his actions, John Levitow received the Medal of Honor, the only enlisted Air Force member to be so honored in Vietnam. He saved the lives of his entire crew. The reign of the AC-47 Spooky was relatively short. Its final U.S. combat mission was in late 1969. The very vulnerabilities it had, its slow speed and lack of armor, were becoming too risky as the North Vietnamese deployed better anti-aircraft guns. But the Dragon's legacy wasn't about its longevity. It was the proof of concept. The AC-47 had demonstrated so convincingly the effectiveness of the fixed-wing gunship that it changed air support doctrine forever. The Air Force immediately began work on its successor, which led to the far more powerful AC-130 Spectre. The AC-130 was a true monster based on the larger C-130 Hercules, with heavier armor, better sensors, and an even more devastating armament, including cannons and a 105mm howitzer. The AC-47s were passed on to Allied air forces, but the AC-130 became the new apex predator of the night sky, a lineage that can be traced directly back to that first jury-rigged C-47 over Vietnam. The story of Puff the Magic Dragon is a perfect example of military innovation born from desperation. It took an old, reliable tool and repurposed it for a new and terrifying problem, and it proved that overwhelming, persistent firepower could be a psychological weapon just as much as a physical one. It was a friendly nickname for a true nightmare, an obsolete plane that became a battlefield legend, and the unlikely father of one of the most feared weapon systems in the modern arsenal. What do you think is the most effective psychological weapon in military history? Tell us what you think in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this look into a unique piece of military history, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Clicking the notification bell ensures you won't miss our next deep dive. Thank you for watching.